it is Pete Werner. And this is a guy that kind of fits the Ohio State mold in terms of his size, 6'3", 242. But if you look at his body type, he doesn't look like the muscle-bound, physical specimen linebacker that we're accustomed to seeing out of Ohio State. I think he runs a little bit better than what we're accustomed to seeing out of Ohio State. He's more along the lines of a Jerome Baker than he is a Malik Harrison or Baron Browning or, or Raekwon McMillan. He runs better than those guys. He's more along the lines of a Jerome Baker, who was a second-round pick. So I like Pete Werner. There's some things that I'm not all that too thrilled about, but let's flip this thing over and take a look at his card. So size and athleticism, 6'3", 242. Again, that's right in the sweet spot. If you're drafting a linebacker, that's what you're looking for. Size and ability to run. He's got both, good athleticism. I love his short area quickness. And again, remember I talked about Baron Browning and saying he didn't have short area quickness. Well, Pete Werner does, which is why I see him as a guy that could come in and immediately jump into some spot duty as a weak side backer, as a will for somebody. Come in right away and I think help. If he's smart and he can pick up the playbook and what you're doing, he's got the athleticism, the movement skills to be able to jump right in and help because I think he can move and navigate his way on the football field. Willingness at the point of attack. He'll take on blocks. At 242, he's not bashful. He's not shy. He'll come up. And again, he doesn't look 242. He looks like he's 227. So he's got that kind of frame that it looks like he could put on another 5 to 7 of muscle, honestly. But he got the willingness at the point of attack. Can shoot a gap. Again, I talked about the athleticism. I talked about his ability to show off some short area quickness. And you see it when he decides to shoot a gap. It's not often. I'd like him to be a little bit more aggressive. I feel like he's a bit of a passive defender, more of a, hey, let me do my job type of guy. I got outside contained, so I'm just going to stay out here where it's safe. I don't want to be the reason that we give up a 22-yard run, but you could also be the reason we get a 4-yard tackle for loss on this play if you just shoot your gun. But he's more on the safe side. I'll just stay out here. If he gets 4, but I stay outside, I feel more comfortable doing that than jumping inside and trying to cut this guy down before he gets going and tackle him for a 3-yard loss. I think he's capable. I mean, you see him at times, you go, that's the Pete that I want to see more of. I'm watching him against Indiana, and I'm like, that's the Pete I want to see right there. In the backfield, 3-yard tackle for loss. I'm like, you can do that, bruh. You're capable. Sound tackler. Really, he's not an overly physical guy. He's more of a shoot your cuffs type of tackler, but that's cool. I don't really give a shit. Just get him on the ground. He does that consistently. Coverage ability. He's a guy that is comfortable in space. He's a guy that I'm not worried about running, 25 yards down the field. I feel comfortable that Pete Werner can do that. I don't want him doing that, but if pressed into action and if he has to do that, I'm not worried about him getting that done. I'm comfortable with his zone drops. I'm comfortable with him getting depth. I'm comfortable, as you see him in the picture, he's probably pursuing a running back, but that's the same kind of pursuit you want him getting in his drop. That's what you want right there. Eyes on the quarterback. As you get depth, you don't want a guy turning and running to grass. Versatility. I talked about his coverage ability. I talked about him being able to play over the slot. I talked about him being able to run out of the backfield with running backs. So there is a level of versatility that you get with Pete Werner. Durability. The guy's been a mainstay over the last 4 years at Ohio State. Doesn't miss many games, if at all any. So you know what you're getting. Didn't get lost in the sea of Ohio State linebackers. I talked about the same thing with Baron Browning, but I mean, you just got to think about it this way. You know, here's a white dude at a school that recruits a bunch of brothers that easily, if he doesn't step up to the plate, can have his job taken at any time. And I went down the list, but Raekwon McMillan, Jerome Baker, Malik Harrison. They had a kid, Justin Hilliard, that may get drafted this year at Ohio State as another guy that they would platoon in and out of the lineup. Baron Browning was in and out of the lineup in a fixture the last few years. Tuff Borland was another guy that they really were enamored with at the middle linebacker position. So you're talking about a bunch, and these are all over the life of Pete Werner's career at Ohio State. Since 2017, these are all guys that have come through there and played, either been drafted or about to be drafted into the NFL, with the exception of Tuff Borland or Justin Hilliard. Both of those guys, I think, ultimately may get drafted. Neither one of them could get drafted, but they're going to end up in somebody's camp. And so Pete was able to not only keep his head above water with all that competition, he was able to excel and stay on the field and be a fixture amongst all of those names. So that's impressive as well. And then I think he's a 3-down linebacker. I really think that this is a guy that you can put on the field all 3 downs. First, second, third. And you can get quality snaps out of him. He's a starter in this league. Weaknesses: not a consistent shed or slip defender. I talked about his willingness to take on players at the point of attack, but I don't love his ability to get off of blocks or slip defenders, or slip blockers, I should say. I don't love his ability to get on a block, get off a block, and make a tackle. He's a guy that you want clean. I think he's got to get better at consistently shedding blocks at the next level. One of the things I noticed in the games that I watched that was off-putting, very, very off-putting, is that he was constantly losing his luggage, meaning he was losing sight of his responsibility. If you're outside contain and they run a tight end sifting to your side across the formation, that's your responsibility. You got to run with that tight end. If they go play action fake and the running back crosses your face, that's your guy. You have to run with him. If you got bootleg and the tight end in front of you is your guy and the quarterback comes out, just because the quarterback rolls out to your side doesn't mean you turn down your responsibility to chase quarterback. I don't know why it is that he constantly is losing his luggage, but I can't tell you how many times I'm watching him and his guys running unimpeded up the sideline, and Pete turns around and goes, "Oh shit, that's my guy." Yeah, Pete, that is your guy, and he's 15 yards up the field and you're nowhere to be found. What are you doing? So he's got to be more disciplined in that regard. No defining trait. Like, nothing he does stands out. Nothing he does stands out and makes you say, okay, this is why I got to have this guy. Now, he's really solid in a bunch of areas, like the guy I comped him to. And those guys hang around and those guys make a difference. They're key cogs in defenses. But there is no definitive trait. And he's not a playmaker. You know, he blends in with your defense. Again, Blake Martinez isn't necessarily a playmaker, but he makes a bunch of tackles and he does what you ask him to do. You need those guys on your defense too. And, but again, he doesn't stand out. I got a late day 2, early day 3 grade. I'm more of a 4th round guy on Pete Werner. I think he's going to go in the 3rd round personally. I'm more of a 4th round guy on Pete Werner. I think he's going to go in the 3rd round. My comp for him is Joe Schobert, the ex-Wisconsin linebacker drafted by the Cleveland Browns. I thought at times was exceptional for the Browns. Got a nice contract from Jacksonville in free agency last offseason. Good linebacker in this league is Joe Schobert. I see a lot of the same qualities with Pete Werner. Joe Schobert has a little bit of a playmaking knack, though. I'd like to see Pete Werner develop some of that. If he can do that, he'll fit right into that Joe Schobert type of mold at the next level.
LouieTeeNetwork.